everybody. Welcome in. I have the wonderful Papa Juggernaut here with me, our lovely guest for the day, as we discuss Star Engine. Yeah, how you
Oh,
doing
no,
today, Jug?
I'm great. How's your Sunday going?
So far, so good. I'm happy we're doing this. I've been wanting to do this discussion for a long time.
Me too. And I love the fact that you picked Star Engine as a topic. That is something that doesn't get enough coverage, and I'll tell you how I confirmed that later in the show.
What I kind of thought we would do to start this off is just look at certain moments of the demo, the Star Engine demo video. And there's a couple key things I want us to look at because mainly it's, some of the things that we haven't seen yet in game. And then also just kind of as a refresher for everybody to remind ourselves how crazy this video was when it came out. And then also just to kind of go over our first impressions of what it was like.
I will say that is probably one of the greatest screens right there. That disclaimer that says everything you're about to see is in game, no loading screens.
Yeah.
That's one of the best parts of the video. The interesting thing is that the music that was used for this particular 25-minute clip or whatever, I forget the total length, but the music was amazing, but we were there to watch what the video game can render. We were there to
Right.
see how does this perform? What are the capabilities? What are the new what are the tools that are going to be implemented in the future? And we saw quite a few of them. So even lacking audio, we could talk right over this whole thing if there's anything specific you want to go over. But I would say the lack of audio may focus on the visual.
I think that's the plan. Let's do that. So this is something that actually right here we kind of see a little bit of a glimpse of, which is the particle effects. And one of the things that looks a little weird sometimes in Star Citizen is explosions. Some look really great. Some look like they came out of like a flat file. I don't know. It's very odd. So to see them kind of show us glimpses of like what that'll really look like in the end is pretty impressive.
I also think it's very relevant for what we're doing now with the new missions, which I think a lot of people have sort of theorized that it's going to culminate in some sort of a massive Idris battle. So the Idris explosion has always been an interesting part of Star Citizen when you see that giant ship go boom.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I 100% agree. And I think now with the new Eckhart missions being updated, and for example, Stava was in the chat the other day talking about how it took them 30 minutes to take down the Idris. 30 minutes because it got
30
buffed,
minutes.
which I'm totally okay with. And one of the points I made to him with that real quick was that seems like a long time now, but the capital class ships that are supposed to go after that ship aren't in game yet. So
Right.
I think we have to see how hard those guys hit. But this is all, pretty impressive. Now, see, this is where I start to lose faith in this video because NPCs are doing things.
Right. We know it's not real. They're interacting with each other. Although I'm pretty sure that guy was pouring an empty glass of nothing, but it doesn't matter.
Probably. Now, see, like things like this, we already know kind of exist in game. We know you can fly by the tram and stuff like that. So this isn't necessarily too crazy or new. Now,
Right. What was the crazy part you wanted to get to?
so this is one of the things we haven't seen enough of yet is,
Ericool says no one standing on chairs. How could that be?
exactly. No, there's nobody T-posing, so that's not a real
Right.
NPC. So this kind of stuff, I'm curious to see how it gets implemented. And one of the things that kept me away from doing caves in the past was that because it was procedurally generated, sometimes the paths through were not obvious. And if you fell, you kind of got effed. So, I mean, maybe with this stuff we'll see more, but this is all still pretty standard.
Yeah.
Here's one. So one thing that we've been now getting teased in the last couple weeks are
Yes.
creatures, right?
Yes.
So we all know the plushies. I personally love the plushies, right? I think they're great. And look, it's the MSR. It's the perfect ship for this. So, but
Yep.
okay, so finally seeing a glimpse of what these would actually look like in engine is kind of cool. And this is the moment where we get it. And look at
Well,
that.
this is the second moment that we get it. The first one was the Microtech cows.
Oh, that's right, the cows. I forgot about
We
them.
got the cows. Yeah. So these are our first glimpses of space cows, I guess, as opposed to planet cows. Whatever it is. I mean,
Space
when we
space
finally start to
whales.
see fauna, yeah.
So that'll be super interesting because I mean we already know what the planets look like. Like the flora is what it is. It's not great, but it's not. I mean, definitely I've seen worse. Um, then we get something else
Yeah, this
coming
is
up.
the important, yeah, right
So
here.
this animation. So what I had heard from Evo Kaibi, and one of the main videos I watched was a Salty Mike one, right after he had done the first Evo Kaibi test from Jump to Jump. Now he said this animation isn't really in there right now.
Right.
There's more of a placeholder going on. So this is clearly still being worked on, but this animation right here and these clouds, that does look amazing.
Yes. So the descent into the nebula or the gas cloud, whatever this might be, um, visually it is stunning. I think it's a testament to what they've done with CryEngine, with Lumberjack. I think it's a testament to what the new APIs can do, and with Vulkan, and great, all fantastic. Um, I got so much shit on my React video from people because I said that the jump looked like water, and I was like, why does it look like, my reference was obviously Stargate. I
Of
was like,
course.
why does it look like water? And everybody was just all on my ass going, well, it's because it's a ripple of space-time and it's just like water. And I was like, first of all, no, water is visible, space-time is not.
That
Matter in
was
space can be visible, but that's not a fair comparison. And you can't just cop out with well, it worked in Stargate. So whatever. But yeah, the jump I think is going to be fascinating when they implement what they want to implement. And I'm really hoping we don't get what we got with salvage fracturing. With salvage fracturing, it was we can't build what we wanted yet, and we had to push this out, so we give you a placeholder. I hope that's not what hits live. I'm hoping.
I hope so too, even though as long as it's clearly stated like, hey, this is work in progress, this is your first iteration,
Uh-huh.
I'm kind of okay with that. I mean, I don't expect it to be full polish, obviously, when it first comes out, but I hope that it's not. I still want it to be. I want to be impressed. I want to be blown away. Like, Salvage was cool, but I wasn't blown away. And you made that's a great point. Like, that was clearly an effort to get tech into the game, and
Mhm.
then when the visuals, when the engine permits it, the visuals will follow. And that I'm not too upset about. I think that's was decently communicated, at least so far in my memory. I mean, we could talk about tattoos and how that's going to come into the game, but that's I don't think that's as important as some of this other
I
stuff.
mean, that's part of the character customizer that they're finalizing now. So I think that that's very near on the horizon, but also not, as I understand it, not technically challenging. You have tattoos in many other games, many other engines can render them. Now, their level of detail may be specific and unique, but a tattoo is a tattoo. And I think we're just going to see them in game and it's going to be great.
And I
Nice
think
way to personalize a character.
I think it's a great way to personalize a character. I don't think it's an important feature. It's definitely not something at the forefront and doesn't make or break a game for me at all. But
Correct.
the
This is a
other
challenge. Fire.
this right here is a challenge. One last thing on character customization, and this is the only thing that I think they're doing better than others, is hair. From what we've seen with hair, I can't think of that many other games that really hold a candle to it right now. Like, um,
I would
what's the
tend
other?
to agree.
I mean, because even Red Dead, which did hair really well, didn't do it that great. And what the one
Red
thing that
Dead's
really
also kicking 6 years on.
exactly, but I mean, typically Rockstar are a few years ahead when they release this, so they're always a decent benchmark to kind of go back and look at standard wise. Ubisoft recently, I feel, has done better with hair, but they still have a lot of work to do, and it feels still kind of chunky. I don't know how
Yeah,
else to put
chunky. I
it.
was just going to use that word. I think it's very chunky. And if you look at Skull and Bones, I think it's still subpar.
Yeah, it's like they have wet toupees stuck to their head. It's kind of funky.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was something that I knew it was a disappointment in that if you look at the first 30 seconds of the video of the Star Engine video, this demo, the conductor of the Celestial Orchestra has a basic bob haircut. I was
Which
just
they
like,
could have added
you're
something
good.
in that was way
Yeah,
better.
come on, show us something that is gonna move and flow and do some cool stuff. But nope, we're
I
gonna
want to
show
see
you
this.
everything but cool hair.
I want
I
to
was
see
like,
this
damn
bob
you!
haircut again.
It's a straight up bob. It's just it's
Yeah, no, it's we've seen that a few
there. It
times.
is. Yeah,
Actually, I just noticed it doesn't. It has some glitches right at the base of the neck, um, like lighting wise. It looked a little
It
off.
may. I actually, when I
Um,
first saw this, I thought it was live video. I thought they had superimposed live video of a conductor, and I was like, no, that's the engine. That's really good. Good for them.
it does do a good job. I'm not trying to hound it. I think it's still impressive. But now this we had been
There we go.
shown before the Star Engine demo or came out. We had seen in an ISC, I believe, certain images of this, but nowhere near this detailed with
No.
people interacting with it.
It's also very difficult, especially with, see, now this is talking about fire simulation based on voxel grids. The particle rendering has always been a challenge. Like fire has always been tough. And this visual, while certainly, I will say more lifelike, um, it's not realistic yet. This is not what real fire looks like, but this is damned close. And I think they get a lot of credit for the way it turned out.
You really see it here in what's supposed to be like scorched or like
Mhm.
embers. You can tell like that texture isn't quite there yet.
Right.
Like, and the flames look almost
Oh, wait a minute. Go
flat.
back about 10 seconds. There's some text on a wall, and it looks like it actually gets consumed by the fire. Past that, it's when we're still moving down the long hallway.
Oh, further back, you mean?
Yeah, further back. Sorry. About 3 seconds before that. Keep going back. You're gonna see. Yeah, like there's.
Oh, the RC. Yeah. Oh, that
Yeah,
actually does look
the
really
R gets
impressive.
consumed. Look,
Yeah, that
RC
was
gets consumed.
that was actually really impressive. So
Huh.
there's clearly some good stuff going on there. I
Yeah.
mean, and again, all of this is still work in progress, but so far, I mean, the only other engine I can think of that's done fire nearly as good as Unreal 5.
Oh, sure. Yeah. And that's going to be
Unity
I
is
think that's
okay.
going to be the comparison for 5 to 10 years is going to be Star Engine versus Unreal 5.
Absolutely. So from here, the next thing I wanted us to look at, here we go. So when they start to show this stuff and we
Yep.
start to get into water physics, that I found to be very impressive.
I haven't seen anything yet, but I've heard that there are water physics in Evo right now in some of the tests. Is that correct?
I haven't heard anything about water physics actually. Chat, if you know anything, shout it out.
Yeah.
But
Somebody who knows 323 or whatever the hell they're doing in Evo, streaming hierarchical object container technology for outposts and points of interest. Yeah, I mean, it's nice tech. I've never been a huge fan of the modularity that they build these places with, but I understand the logic behind it and I don't complain.
right. I kind of feel like they've kind of given us the, oh, we're just building out assets excuse a little too often for us to just see the same assets essentially here again.
Sure.
But anyways, this is what I thought was very impressive, was curving paths into the water and the ripple effects and how it interacts with each other. That looks pretty damn cool.
Yeah, agreed.
But my biggest question, so I've seen games do this well before, maybe not this well, but I don't know if you've ever noticed this in a game where you dig a hole next to the water and all of a sudden there's water there when there's no obvious path for the water to have gotten over into said hole. It's just some flat plane. I hope that's what I'm looking forward to be seeing solved in water physics. And I think Unreal Engine 5 has made some headway there, but this still I think remains the most impressive. And then we get into Maelstrom, which does look pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think
real-time water interaction effects.
That was cool. But the one thing I do want to mention about that crash real quick is they still blow off into chunks.
Yeah, well, what would you like?
Impacts, dents. I don't know if you know this game called BeamNG.
Damage chunks.
Yeah.
Oh,
like they
okay.
I mean, I'm not it should be all evaporated. No. But like there should be obvious signs of where the impact was.
Got it. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
And that's something that BeamNG with their engines did a really good job of. It gets a little wonky at times, but in terms of like recognizing where an impact was, that has been what I've seen do it the best. This, I think it's kind of hard with the amount of ships and variables that go into a crash to do that. So I feel like I'm being just a little too picky with that one, to be honest. But it's still a thing that I think they could do more work on, especially with bigger ships. You know what I mean?
Well,
Where,
so let's play devil's advocate for a second. If you
hmm
got what you were looking for, the way to render dents and other sort of physicalized damage, you'd have to basically get into material science. I mean, you're talking
yeah,
about physics and chemistry where it's like, okay, well, that ship's made out of titanium, but that ship's made out of steel, and this is made out of polyvoluminum. Like, okay, so what would that do? I mean, you're talking about very complicated, immediate rendering of sort of chemical interaction. I mean, I don't know if anything in gaming is ready for that because of the significant amount of reality that would be expected.
that's a great point. I think maybe now with what we're seeing with tech, it's kind of easy to go to the next step. When are we going to see this? And when are we going to see this? Because we've seen this.
Hmm.
When you look at the evolution of engines in the last, I don't want to say last 10 years, they feel like they've gotten a little slower, but for the previous 10 years, from like late 90s to 2010 or 2012, because 2012, 2013 were some of the greatest years we've seen in gaming with games that were coming out and pushing the envelope. GTA 5, that's when that came
Right.
out. So stuff like that. But we always had games from very early on. Red Faction is probably the biggest example I have where you could destroy everything, and then Battlefield did it. So a completely destructible environment like what they're showing with Maelstrom is definitely not new, but it's still super impressive.
Mhm.
I guess to go back to the actual questions, like I think you're right. It's probably unrealistic and unreasonable to ask for that level of detail and realism because you're right. You're talking about going into individual items and surfaces and having their own physics interaction with certain parameters or variables, the way it gets hit. There's too much going on. We don't have the processing power, I think, to do all of that. And I think that was a good point. But all right, from there, so when you saw this, what was your first impression? Like, how did you feel about it before you started thinking about it?
I went into some pretty significant detail when I did the React video, and I think there's the first is credibility. I think this was the first significant demonstration in recent years that the back end of the project, which is people got to remember Star Citizen is not about building a game; it's about building a game and a game engine.
Yeah.
And I think that this was finally that huge credibility moment, that proof of concept that says we're going to create a video for you that is not fictionally rendered. This is what you could get in game, where like the passes, flying through glass and all that. If we eliminate some of the physics that would prohibit the travel, but this is the game. This is what we're building. This is the engine we're creating, the APIs that we're using. This is real. And I think that was the biggest thing. That was my biggest reaction, was dispelling the Star Citizen scam, dispelling we've waited so long, why. I think this addresses all of those major issues. I think this adds something to the sort of the hopium of it. But I think that the hopium is now based on some reality. And that was my biggest thing, was what do we now have? Oh, we have that. And we see what's coming because you're adding, like we talked about, we're adding the fauna, we're adding these new, maelstrom, and we're adding the physicalized damage to the environment. Maybe not to other things, but we're doing these major steps, and those are going to be coming in the next 12 to 24 months ish. Soon. Hashtag.
Yeah, TM. Um, no, I think for me, I have to agree with dispelling the scam, but I feel like there was already enough to dispel that before. It just took a little bit more effort to point out why it wasn't a scam. Now, all of
Mhm.
a sudden, we have this video of the culmination of 10 and a half, 11 years of work going through CryEngine, going through Lumberjack, like you mentioned, managing to Frankenstein those things together and then creating something entirely new from it that is now called Star Engine. I think it did justify a lot of people's patience. It was probably a relief for some people to see that after so long that this actually happening. And yeah, I think the scam argument for me personally was lost after 316, 317. Like, guys, this is a full-on game. You may not like everything you can do or the lack of certain things to do, but you can do more in this already than what you could do before. But I think one of the reasons why people felt that it was a scam is because, and I felt like this for a while, and I had this discussion with multiple friends who gave me crap all the time, which is like, you're just playing a tech demo. And that was also kind of the problem with Star Engine is all of this kind of feels like a sales pitch.
Wait, hold on. If you are one of Latired's friends and this was your point, please speak up in chat. Was there some sort of mystery or confusion about the fact that this is an alpha? Like, were they not? Of course, the whole point is we're testing a tech demo. Was that really lost on some people?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think some people, they see something going on sale and it has to be a finalized product or as close to as possible, which I think is changing with the fact that early access is so widespread. But there were some early access nightmare stories. There were some Kickstarter nightmare stories. What's the one? Chronicles of Illyria? Is that the one I'm thinking about? That's just a
many
dumpster?
of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
There have been many, many, many. But
yeah.
But for somebody to claim that Star Citizen, after years of development, they didn't know. Look, I'm a new citizen. I've been in this for less than 2 years. I'm still. How could that have escaped somebody's attention that this is a tech demo? They are building a thing. We are testing the thing. That's the relationship. Like what?
So then I think the argument goes a little further, and you're talking about essentially this just being a giant test to sell the engine, right? And I think that's where some people went, and I can see that to a certain extent. I think you're right. I think there's probably not enough people that understand what alpha means. Or there is a lot of people who don't understand why people would play an alpha and join in on that. Like
I could agree with both. Yep. Okay.
The mindset of like, well, you're essentially paying to be their testers. I have to see the logic in that to a certain extent. Then I think where it gets lost is like, we're not here with codes, lines of codes, and MS-DOS running in the background, going through stuff as we're playing the game. That's also not the reality of it, right? We're actually just we're just playing, we're just enjoying the environment. We're going through stuff. Like some people's reasonings gets a little intense, but like, not of it's bad.
Look, I can understand their position. I've talked about this on my own Twitch streams multiple times. This is why I don't spend time in the PTU, EPTU, Tech Preview, Evo. I have no issue with people who do. That's fine. Have a good time. But I paid to play a test. Now, the fact that they're getting data from me, I'm okay with. I've accepted that part of the relationship. But I'm not going to sit here and dedicate time just to plug through your issue council reports. If you want me to do that, you can hire me as part of your QA team. You can hire me as a project manager. But I'm not going to sit there and dedicate, 5 to 10 hours a week testing thing. I'll play shit. I'm not going to test it for you. Go pay somebody.
Yeah. I mean,
but that's my thing. Anybody, you guys can do. I have no issue with that. I don't criticize people for that. That's not where I'm spending my time.
No, and there are tons of people that I've come across on my stream as well who are like, I'm not here to test for them. I'm here to enjoy myself. And that's absolutely fine. And I totally get that. There are some people who feel that because they're so invested, because they have, fallen for the dream, they're willing to go above and beyond to help bring that to become a reality. And I think that's great. And, power to you, but don't expect everyone who signs up for this game to do the same thing.
Yeah.
I have some. I forget if it was. I think it was Aristavo or Bigfoot. One of them taught me how to put up a council report. They're like, "Can you help me?" I was like,
Mhm.
"Sure, just show me how." And then, like, I
Yep.
was like, "Yeah, this doesn't work." But I've done that twice, and yeah, almost 2 years of playing this game. Of I think this is something that maybe more people need to be aware of because it's something that directly affected how I played the game, right? So
That's a
in
good
that
point though.
sense,
I will absolutely test things for my friends. If
yeah,
somebody posts like in my Discord or your Discord, if somebody goes in and posts like, "Hey, here's a new issue council thing. We need to get this thing, rising up to awareness." I will go do that for them. But I'm not doing it for a multimillionaire who owns a game studio. Sorry, I'm not doing it for Chris Roberts. I'll go do it for a friend who's trying to get their gameplay fixed.
yeah,
Like, look, I can't, our friend Bigfoot is a good example. He couldn't fly his 890 for months because
months.
CIG didn't see the issue council report or they labeled it as fixed and it wasn't fixed. And then we had to move on to hey, they're finally addressing it and the guy gets to fly his ship again. Cool. If he were to post something in my Discord, like, "Hey, I've got an issue council problem. You need to, could you take a look at it?" 100%. I'll jump in. I'll see what I can do in the game, and try to get stuff done. So I think you're making an important distinction in terms of what will I do? Nothing. What will I do for a friend? Lots. What will I do for Chris Roberts? Nothing.
Exactly,
I
because
paid to have
why
fun.
would you, yeah, why would you help out? It's like, people asking you to put in overtime at work, but there's no pay for overtime. What's the point? There's
Right.
no point. You wouldn't do that. It's,
Yeah.
the promise of something greater down the line. We've all had that. We know that most of the time never pans out, because it's just hot air. So I think Chris has gotten past oh, this guy is just full of himself selling a dream. I think he's realizing his dream. And I think what we saw with Star Engine
Mhm.
is a big part of that. But to go back to
Yeah,
the
for
point of
sure.
the issue council, like, it's, I think, one of the most frustrating things that took way too long to fix. And as annoyed as I was for Bigfoot, and as much as I love to fly with him in that 890, I think the bigger thing is there was a whole moment during 318, 319 when people hit concierge and then got 19K'd locked out of the game. And it wasn't for like 3 hours or 3 days. It was for 3 weeks.
Well, I mean, we know it was 3 weeks in hindsight. For some people, it was months, and
It's
that's
true.
only in hindsight. As far as we knew, this was indefinite. As far as CIG told us, it was indefinite. They're
Yeah.
like, "Yep, we know it's a problem. We're working on it. Thanks." And we're like, um, granted, yes, we all agreed that this isn't alpha, but could you like try?
And
Would
that's,
be
I
good.
think, where some of the frustration is entirely justified with CIG is it's like, hey, you guys get a lot of good faith. You guys get a lot of patience. You guys get a lot of help from your community. Return the favor once in a while. And not by like, hey, look, we put a discount on the ship. No, that's not returning a favor. Oh, hey, look, you guys, you can get this $10 starter pack. No, that's not showing the community that you give a crap. That's showing the community that, like, yeah, don't worry, we'll just here, look at this shiny new thing. And
That
I
you can
don't
pay
like
us
that.
for.
Exactly. I don't like that.
Yeah.
I feel, and this is going to tie in for me into the next part of this whole thing, but I don't like the fact that that could be perceived as taking advantage to a certain extent of your community. I don't like that. I think this is the best community I've ever come across in a game in terms of the people who are around in it, the low level of toxicity. I'm not going to say non existent because that's not true, and there's no world in where that's non existent, but the
But it's
low
low.
level, the high level of help that is always offered up to anyone who needs it. And that's something I've just started telling any new player who comes into chat. I'm just like, don't be afraid to talk in global. That is what held me back from enjoying this game. And once I got over that hurdle, I have look where here we are. You know what I mean? I'm now doing a podcast on Star Engine. Like, and so I feel like this community needs to be shown a little bit more respect at time and more maybe thank yous. Like, hey, here's a free item. Like, here's something all of you can have. Here's something that everybody can enjoy in game. I'm not saying you should give people discounts or special unique items that no one ever can ever get again. No, no, no. But just And I don't know necessarily what that would be, and I don't like to necessarily complain without a solution, but like I think the solution would be looking down the avenue of like how can we reward our players more? And I don't see enough of that at time. For most of the part, I don't see enough. We are so grateful that you're doing all this. Thank you. And here's X, Y, or Z, or anything.
I think this is where they would possibly get into a little bit of a briar patch of how to reward. So they've created a very complicated system of backing in terms of how much are you concierge, are you a sub, are you an evo, are you like there's layers to this. This is an ogre of a testing scenario. So there would be issues of people who want content as a reward. And then if they get the content, you're going to have people who say, I want items as a reward. People who want items maybe don't want the content. They prefer, to play astronaut dress up. I think that how do rewards happen gets tricky. And then who gets them? Everybody? If it's everybody, then why did I give $1,000? That's going to be the concierge question. If it's everybody, then maybe you need less of my money. That could be a concierge request. If you spend any time in the concierge forums, you're going to see people constantly asking. There's a sense of entitlement, which I'm not saying is justified or unjustified. I'm not going to.
And I have seen that.
Yeah, but there's very much I'm Legatus. What do I get for it? Cool, I got a gold, whatever. I got a gold 600 and, this, that, and the other. But it's like, I've given, I saw one guy, I'm going to screw up the quote, but it was something like, I've paid 25 times more than I needed to get into this stupid club. What do I get for it? It was kind of like that vibe. And I was like, all right, you spent some change, get you. Do you, at what point did you decide you'd spent too much? Like that's always my question is, where was your dollar bill that was the one that moved the scales for you? Where was it? 14, 9,999, 15. Now I'm upset.
I mean, so I completely get that, and I think that the entitlement is unjustified for the most part because you paid for virtual things in a game, and it's not like you're gonna really ever flex with your 890 down Santa Monica Boulevard or Sunset, or like you're not gonna fly through New York and be like, "Yo, check me out." It's just not gonna happen. So, I think though the opposite could be said and be like, well, the guys who came in the Kickstarter and dropped 45 grand for a space station, they might be a little annoyed. Which I don't know how many there are. I don't think there could ever be that many, but like there were certain things. The bar was at a certain level for certain things depending on your backing, right? And well, clearly some people haven't gotten everything they backed for originally in the timeline that was promised. Now, do I think they'll deliver eventually on certain things? Absolutely. I think they just need more time, and it's unfortunate to say, and nobody ever really wants to hear that as a argument, but it's true. I think it's just going to take them time to get through and do everything they were going to do, and then also the reality of building a game and realizing as you go through that, well, that idea might have been stupid. We should probably not have sold a space station to somebody who now owns a space station in a game. I think that is something that people should be able to potentially do within the game, but not necessarily have bought it in coming in. Like
an or pay-to-win scenario.
Yeah, and that's where I think the pay-to-win conversation comes in, because I don't really believe that owning that many ships in your personal hangar is going to give you that much of a leg up in game, right? Unless all you do is PvP and you're starting off with an F8 or something ridiculous. Yeah, okay, but then the reality is we're gonna have what, maybe 1 to 3 full wipes before 1.0. Like a full reset.
God.
I can't wait, by the way.
Talking about Star Engine and you uttered the phrase 1.0.
I know, I can't believe I shouldn't have done that, but I mean, Star Engine would be a part of that, I mean, it has to be. It was inevitable.
Okay.
We'll get through this.
That's right. We'll get through this.
It's
I
okay.
think that all of this, regardless of what, maybe regardless is the wrong word. Whatever Star Citizen shapes up to be, and I mean it's shaping all the time. This is very much a wet piece of clay. Whatever it shapes up to be, I think to go back to our point, is that this dispels, for my mind, and you said maybe it was dispelled earlier in 316, it dispels the scam.
Right.
And I think we're so far past that now, because even one of the things that I was sort of glad to see come out of the the Star Engine video was that we saw the media. I think for the most part, I think they're going to stop even bringing up the idea that it's a scam. I think they're now getting to a point where, even just from a marketing perspective, they're talking about, we've seen a Star Engine demo. We're now hearing the CEO of the company, the founder of the company, the visionary of the company. He's using the phrase Star Citizen 1.0. I think this is real. I think the media is going to grab a hold of that, and over time, it's going to drop off from the lexicon of the audience as well. But that's
The
a hope.
bashing, yeah, will hopefully. I mean, there will always be some form of bashing or hating,
It's
but
gamers. Yeah, they have to find
yeah.
something to complain about.
But I think also, and what I was most excited about, I think in the end when I saw this video, is like, cool, we're gonna make the others be more honest now. The Unities, the creation engine, the Armor Reforger, like those guys now have to kind of look at that and be like, well, crap, can we do that? Are we that
Right.
good? Are we better in certain places? Like, is that even a question we can ask, or are we now behind? And they've proven that if you just keep your head down and keep moving forward, and you can convince certain enough people that what you're doing is legit, well, they're now going to corner their market and potentially surpass us because we were sitting on our laurels and they were working.
See, you're bringing up a huge concern of mine, and I've talked about this previously, which is it only holds other studios or other devs accountable if it releases. If it never does, if it never sees the light of day outside of this alpha or even a beta, if it never sees a live game, why would they care? Why would Unity give a crap?
That's a good
They
point.
won't. Because Unity is on real games you can buy and play. Like it's not in alpha world. It's a tested, provable, proven, um, replicatable, applicable, twistable thing. Star Engine plays one alpha environment that breaks. So I think to your point, you're going to have all the other studios who saw the demo, and yes, they probably panicked, but then they're sitting, all of their shareholders are going, cool, we're still selling ours, right? Great. We're in a better position. We're fine. No one other than CIG can use Star Engine. It's just a fact.
Right now,
So
absolutely.
depending on how long this takes for development, maybe they have nothing to care about. The other studios, I mean, the other developers may look at this and say they're not even close to release.
Right.
So
Like they've got
yes,
a long road.
we always need to innovate. We always need to design. We always need to push the envelope. But we've been doing that with live product. Cloud Imperium is doing it with a test environment for 11 years.
And that's the argument, right? Right now they can still go, well, no, what are you talking about? That game or that engine that's being built, that's a 12-year-long, dream. And that's what they can say, all those things. They can take away the what's the word I'm looking for? They can decredibilize what the project is by saying, well, look, no, we're working. That's such a dream. Like, yeah, okay, maybe somebody will be able to do that. But look, they spent all that time trying to get it to work. Look what we have that's working, that's making us all these dollar bills. It's the same argument and the same reality with, I hate Call of Duty. Why do they keep making the same Call of Duty? Because you buy it. I hate FIFA. Why do they keep making the same thing? It's such a cash grab. Well, it's because you dropped $1,000. It's because you dropped X amount.
Right.
It's because
you keep
you're
doing
a part
the
of that
DLCs, you keep doing the microtransactions. I mean, I had this conversation about Fortnite recently, I don't know, 2 months ago maybe. And it was very simple. if people keep paying billions of dollars, I mean, Clash of Clans, you know, you keep dropping billions of dollars on something. Why would the studio say, let's risk that? It's costing CIG 700 million plus to build this game. We have estimates that GTA 6 is going to cost somewhere in the neighborhood of $1 to $1.5 billion. You think they're going to risk the billions you're dumping into like I said, your DLC packages and your microtransactions and your armors and your clothes and your hair? You think they're going to risk that and then say, but a game costs $1 billion to make? Where do we get it from? Yeah. You keep paying it.
You keep paying it. When we go back to our investors, our shareholders, we just show them we're making tons of money. They're like, yeah, but people aren't happy. You're like, but do you care? You just made X.
Right.
Like, like, do you really care? Well, I guess not so much.
And Chris was not living in a small house in Los Angeles. Let's be very frank about this. Like, money was very much appreciated.
Oh, he was already a legend in the business. Right. With Ultima Online, Wing Commander, of course, 1, 2, 3, and whatever expansions there were.
But Freelancer. CIG, we broke.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean,
yeah.
So I'll be curious.
It's just the way it works out.
It's true, and the thing is, as much success as he's had with Ultima, Wing Commander, the amount of money those made him compared to what games make today is a joke. Like, you look at that back then, you're like, why did it make so little money? But no, that was a successful game for them because you have to take into context how many gamers there were back then. There weren't that many of us. I wasn't around for that.
It also wasn't a multi-billion-dollar worldwide, global, employing millions of people industry.
It was still an industry that was laughed at, that was made fun of by the rest of the entertainment industry. Like, look, who are these jokers making pixels on a screen? That doesn't make any sense. Atari,
it was a bunch of dorks on the coasts who, made fun things that they wanted to play. It wasn't about studios and investors and billions. It was stuff that nerds wanted to make. So they made it and they changed the world.
Yeah. I mean, look at Dungeons and Dragons. It's the perfect example. That now, no one really makes fun of D&D anymore. We'll look at Baldur's Gate, look at all the games that have come out with that. Anyways, there's a lot. I mean, and as an industry, the industry has definitely grown. Okay. All right. So right now, I think the big thing to talk about with Star Engine is, are they going to sell it? And what I mean by that is, obviously, are they going to market this to other game developers as the same way Unity does, the same way, Unreal Engine does, the same way, what's the other one I'm thinking of? Anyways. There
are so many.
There are a few. Yeah. What do you think?
Yes. But I think, I say yes, but I think there needs to be some clarification. I don't think Chris Roberts will sell it. I think he will license it. I think he will do what the other dev studios do, and he will license the tech out to other games, just like a Unity does or whatever else. And I think that's part of the plan. His vision isn't just Space Sim. His vision is also the ability to build the game that he wants. You can't build, and I think this needs to be very understood by the casual critic of CIG and Star Citizen, the avid gamer and player of Star Citizen. Everyone needs to understand Star Citizen cannot exist in any current engine. It's not possible. So part of Chris Roberts' vision, and he's talked about that, I'm not like making stuff up or insinuating. He's talked about the fact that he wanted to build the ability to build this. You had to build the engine. Now he started. I don't know if we're going to talk about this later, but he had to build it on CryEngine. He had to build it. He incorporated Amazon's Lumberjack. He had to do these other things, but really, Star Engine is going to be Star Engine. It's going to be a unique proprietary piece of tech. If he doesn't license it, I genuinely can't figure out from a business standpoint why not. So yes, I wholeheartedly say he is going to license this.
And I have to agree. And I'm really happy you made the distinction, though, between license and sale. Those are two very, very different things. And it's actually very rare to see somebody just sell their engine. Typically, you want to keep licensing, or you want to keep the rights of ownership and license it out for a fee. And that's how I think it's worked for many years now. And that's I should have probably worded it that way. So thank you for the clarification, because I don't think a lot of gamers really ever take that into account, or ever ask themselves what the difference is. Um, I I think they will sell it. I think, yes, there's no way this game works on anything else. The only thing that has half a chance is Unreal, but it's not developed for this, or
No.
with the ideal scale in mind that Star Citizen had from off the bat. The other night when I was doing a react to the To and Fro Cargo on Thursday, one of my mods, Twin, who's done coding, brought it up. There's like, there are already games with up to 10,000 people on servers, but I have a huge question mark with that. Like, I don't think they're at all built the same way. I don't
No.
think they're intended or have the same quality of graphics as what we're seeing here. I just don't see how that's possible, because otherwise games like No Man's Sky, what's the other one? Elite Dangerous, they would have more, or
Elite.
Eve. Yeah, Eve I think has one of the biggest server sizes, but it's a very different game. Top down, a lot of, there is detail, but nowhere near the scale of what Elite Dangerous, No Man's Sky, and then of course the one that sits all the way above, Star Citizen does. I think what Urkel here says is interesting. Hope they do. And that brings up my I think the biggest question I have with Star Engine and the sale. I think we can all agree that the licensing, is a smart business move for anyone, especially when you've provided something that's so top of the line, so cutting edge, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it was not created off of investor dollars. It was created based off of backers who wanted to play a game.
We
So
say that? I mean, I don't know the internal financing of the company. I know they made $700 million in crowdfunding. Like that's kind of where my brain stops. Is just like that's all I need to know. But considering the amount of money that has had to been spent on Star Engine's development, on Squadron 42's development, on Star Citizen's development, do we have something that we can delineate that says only this money was used for Star Engine? Or simultaneous, or I guess the flip side of that would be Star Engine was only made with this money. Do we know that?
So it brings up my next point. I did a little bit more digging back in the day because I was very, 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 very curious. From what I found out was we're almost at $1 billion in funding, and 800 of that is backer, and because the last quarter of last year they got a big old push after Sitcon. The numbers that I heard of potential investor money was somewhere in the realms of 50 to 150 million, which would then justify people claiming that we've almost made the billion for CIG and Star Citizen. The umbrella that is, Star Citizen, Squadron, Star Engine.
So CIG.
CIG, yeah. So that's where your question is incredibly poignant, because that's a reality that will probably be told at some point when the licensing becomes more of a reality. They'll be like, well, look, we had X invested into us by private investors, and we're going to claim that X was only used to build the engine that we will then license. If I was them, that's how I would get ahead of any potential backlash of people saying, well, you had people, gamers, backers, pledgers, whatever you want to call them, fund your game, what was marketed as a game and a single player game and an MMO. Well, the single player was, there's a debate whether what came first, the chicken or the egg, but at the end of the day,
I think we know which is going to get released first.
Yeah, which is fine as long as something gets released. Because, like, to go back to what you're saying about, killing the bashing, killing the scam comments, you release at least one thing, and your rep goes straight up, right? But is it truly ethical? let's say if there's a world where maybe what I heard was untrue, and I will make sure that for this video when it gets released to YouTube, I will find the link to that video, or I will post in the description more information about that, so that there's a bit of a follow-up, and you guys can hold me anyways, accountable. Thank you.
Sometimes you should just go into French. Just
that was going to
just go into French.
And that's where I get screwed up, is I'll start to like Frenchicize it, and that just clearly doesn't work. But I speak Fringlish.
I love that. Frenchicize it, and what did you call it? Decredibilize?
Yeah.
We got decredibilized and Frenchicized so far. This is good.
We're creating a new
school.
language.
Finish
Exactly.
all your language.
Yeah, don't just
Stay in
jump
school.
in. No, yeah. Stay in school.
Yeah.
Language is important. It's how we communicate. Clearly, I'm not making sense.
It's how we Latired just said it's how we communicate. Okay. I'll take your word for it. Sure.
But no, so yeah, do you see the point I'm trying to make with the ethics of the potential license?
I think it's going to be the accountability portions of it. You're going to have investors, but I will make a huge assumption here. The assumption is this: the people that invested in this vision that is CIG, okay, I'm going to assume that these people were smart enough to have a deal that specified what their out is. So there's an exit strategy for every one of those investment deals. It may not be cookie cutter across the board. It may be some people are looking for, rough numbers. I gave you $1 million. You're going to give me your first 2 out. Thank you very much. I'm done. There's going to be others who say, nope, I'm going to give you $1 million. And that is for a 0.1% ownership of the company, and I get profits for the next 10 years. Everybody's exit strategy in these deals, I can't imagine he raised $500,000 from grandma and she was like, okay, here you go, here's a check. Like, I'm betting there's exit strategies here. I am betting that every single investor knows what they're going to get paid, or at least when and how they're going to get paid in terms of milestones. So the way angels and VCs work, there's going to be all of this stuff is spelled out. So will the ethics get tied into it? Possibly. It depends how far he's drifted from his original sales pitch.
And I think
that's really, like, legally, that's the issue. Is you asked me for X number of dollars. I gave X number of dollars in exchange for Y. You're now on Z+3. How do we calculate Y? You violated the terms of our contract, in which case, almost always, Chris Roberts will lose that argument.
Right.
The investor typically gets the benefit of the doubt because they're the ones that had the most risk.
Right. They were willing to shoulder the risk, and their plan either wasn't sound, and you can quote negligence at that point, or however they want to word it and go after them. But that would be breach of contract at least.
Mm-hmm.
So
at worst, I think it would be fraud.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point.
Flat, you sold me a bill of goods. You said I would get paid when this milestone was hit, and now that milestone is not even possible because of what you have developed. And again, this is all hypothetical. I don't want anybody thinking that I or Latired are sitting here predicting Chris Roberts' legal challenges. I think this is just purely a conversation about what would it look like in terms of the ethics of licensing Star Engine if only certain pockets of dollars were used for it. If certain allocations were used versus others, who would get the licensing revenues? I have to imagine, well, I can imagine one thing, which is that is spelled out in multiple documents in multiple places. The second thing I don't have to imagine, I know for a fact, is that I don't care because I don't get a shit any piece of it at all.
That's the point.
I get nothing. I paid to test. I didn't pay to invest.
I would have gladly invested in this if there was a return. I think many people would have had less of an issue dropping 45K, into the space station backers pack if they knew there was more of a return. Now, to bring that case up again, like you said, the development could have taken a direction that no longer makes that promise possible. Now, there's also there's two things. You said, the investors would get benefit of the doubt and would have written in something in there that guarantees that they get that. Now, CIG could have pushed back and be like, well, the reality of developing this tech means that everything we're envisioning now may not be entirely possible. So is there maybe an outline for the frame, like a framework of what is accepted within what they've achieved to get close enough to that goal? And for example, well, actually, it's kind of hard to come up with a specific example, but I'll go back to the space station where it's like they thought that would be a good idea for players to be able to have their own space station. As they created the game, it's become obvious that's not the greatest thing to do, and that's something that should clearly be earned or not at all be a possibility in game, right?
Maybe.
Well, those guys paid for $45K to have a space station. Are you going to refund them?
Sort of. So I hate doing this because everybody in the community hates me when I do this. Every single time. Now, I don't know. Two disclaimers. One, I am not a lawyer. I only play one on Twitch. Two, the Kickstarter campaign, I don't know about many of the details. I wasn't around for that phase of the development, so I can't speak to exacts. But my assumption would be this: if it is structured in any way similar to what every single one of us pays, or every single one of us agrees to every time we pay for something, whether it's a stupid little UEE flag flare on our dashboard, or a $995 ship that's really pretty with an Origin logo on it, we all hit the button that says, I agree, I may never get this thing, ever. We agree to it every single time. This is an alpha, plans change, shit breaks, you may not ever see this thing you're giving us money for. If the Kickstarter was structured anywhere close to that, and somebody put up $45,000 and said, cool, I get a space station, is there a clause in that contract that says this is in concept, you may never see a space station?
And I'm happy
that invalidates any argument.
That's exactly where I wanted this to go, because that's the reality. And Urical puts it again, is who cares how much money someone pledged, donated? That was a choice. Now, I do care about how much money people spend on this, because we all have really bad habits sometimes. But that's a good point. It's a fair point. It was a choice, and as long as people,
how much Latired spends on this, and he wishes it was less.
I didn't want to say it earlier when you mentioned the concierge forum, but I hit concierge like 2 weeks ago, and I don't want to talk about it. It's exactly like, oh my god. Yeah. So we're glossing over that. I mean, so I'm just as guilty as many, right? I'm not as guilty because some are way more guilty than I am.
Well, no, but that goes back to that previous point. Were you less guilty at $9.99 than you were at $1,000? No, it's $1.
No. It's nothing. I literally was $20 away going, okay, all right, like, fine, I'll make the jump. And yeah, people have been here since 2014. They backed the minimum amount, have never put in more. Others have over the years, because either love of the project, belief in the ambition and the vision, have added in stuff. And I mean, and how many of us buy stuff on Amazon that we don't need? I bought something the other week and I realized I still have an unopened Amazon package, and I'm just like, I really need to check my spending habits. But like,
I love how you have the same reaction to an unopened Amazon box as you do to CIG Concierge. It's just regret.
It's not necessarily regret, because here's the thing: is I've been playing devil's advocate a lot in this show purposefully, because I think it's important to look in and see the bigger picture and see what potentially is going to be thrown back against some of this, against what's going to come. I mean, I think also the reality is, when this became a thing, I cannot believe, nothing in me wants to believe that nobody went to a lawyer and was like, is this cool? What happens if this doesn't work out?
That's what I'm saying. That's almost my entire rebuttal is that you have to assume that these contracts were written. Like, this isn't the back of a napkin. This isn't somebody making a pinky promise. This is all spelled out. And we know, for those of us who spent money on the game, whether it's $45 or $45,000 outside of the Kickstarter campaign or private investment in CIG, literal, like, venture capital or whatever it may have been. Outside of those arrangements, every stupid piece of armor that we buy, we sign a contract that says, I know I may never get this. Chris Roberts could run away with the money tomorrow and I have no legal recourse because I'm giving it freely and I'm crazy. So whatever happens is going to happen. And again, for people like me, I'm not an investor in the game. This is a simple transaction. I am paying for access to a testing environment. I get access to the testing environment. I am paying for the potential of receiving a piece of cosmetics or whatever. I'm not paying for the physical object. The
Right.
only exception to that is if I pay for a physical object and they have to ship it to me, then they owe me something. Outside of that, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, and I think it's always, I feel like this gaming community, not just Star Citizen, but the gaming community, or just society as a whole, we tend to forget that. We're like, why are things so crap? Because we keep letting them do it. And the biggest way to stop letting somebody do it is by not giving them your money. The other thing I do want to say, though, is I actually feel like there is a game here now. You get in game what you pay for, as long as you're not buying concepts. And that's, for me personally, where I draw the line, is at a concept. The only concept I ever paid into that I didn't immediately have access in the game was Squadron 42, because it was $20 and I was like, give me that. And
Sure. Makes sense.
and that was it. But that's not even an item. That's a game, right? That's a whole other product. Like, well, a derivative product, or whatever, however you want to sell it. The single player version, whatever.
It's a main product, yeah.
Yeah. So
technically that's the thing that we all sort of bought into, but we get we get Star Citizen as a placeholder.
right, and then Star Citizen is now the thing that people apparently want more than the single player, because anyways. And like, don't get me wrong, I always have a hunger for a good sci-fi single player story. Always. I love that. And I think there have been some really cool ISCs recently where we get to see a little bit of insight into some of the designers' inspiration. And I forget which episode it was, but he was saying, oh no, it was the one about the Idris, where we got to see all inside the Idris. When the guy's like, oh, all my influences are RoboCop, Alien, and you're like, all the stuff I like, awesome, let's go. And that's why I think a lot of us have no problem like immersing ourselves and loving these environments that we're given. Anyways, that's a little off topic. But to go back to the ethics of this, you've driven this home, not just on this podcast, but also on the last one. We are alpha testers. We agree to that every single time we launch the game. We agree to the fact that we may never receive our promised land, our
Sure, yeah.
our end goal. We agree that when you're buying a concept ship, at least, that ship is a JPEG, and you will not have it until it's maybe released. And I'm going to do this even though I shouldn't, and people are going to start yelling, but the Banu Merchantman is the perfect example. And I avoided saying that the other night on stream, but today, guess what? We're talking BMM now. Like, that one I kind of understand a lot of people being upset about, but at the same time, like I just said, no, you backed something that it's not in game yet.
Yep.
Like, we can talk about this being a scam, but at least there's a whole bunch of stuff we buy that immediately you get within 5 minutes in game, as long as you exit the game and then you go back in, because you have to anyways. Like, but you
right.
Like, all that stuff is virtually tangible. We get to mess around with it on our computers, in the game, in the verse. Concepts is where the line kind of gets different, and I personally,
it's the same agreement.
It's the same agreement, right? But that ship may not be available in the 6 months they said. It may be 6 years. It may be, and that's
never.
a part of maybe never. Exactly. Maybe, as much as my tune has changed a little bit when I talk about Star Citizen, now I'm like, no, shut up. It's not scam. Screw you. I'm done with that.
Yeah.
Wait until the end of April. Wait until the end of summer. Wait until the end of October. If after those 3 dates you're still saying it's a scam, well then now I kind of just think you're an asshole, or
What happens to the end
you're
of
blind.
April?
That's when 323 is supposed to really come in.
I thought it was coming out for Invictus.
So Invictus is beginning of May. So typically they get that released the week before.
Okay.
So or it's the week before, or it kind of comes out a couple days before, because they've done it in the past where it's like the same day, and that's typically where everything crashes. So recently I feel like they've
Right, but
spaced things out a little bit.
yeah, typically like you'll get it on a Tuesday and then, Invictus launches on a Friday or whatever.
Exactly, yeah.
But
Or
it's
you get
tied
it
to that,
Thursday
which
and Monday.
by the way, I'm still, you were running the poll, right? Of all the oh no, we were talking about it, about when these things might happen, and I still think Invictus is going to be mid or end of May. I don't think we're getting 323 in April. I genuinely don't.
I think we'll see it for sure, because we've already started to on the PTU and all of that. We'll be testing it throughout April. I think for a full live release, yeah, right before Invictus, which I think is typically first or second week of May, something like that.
I think that'll be, yeah, I think the PU is going to be May.
Yeah, so yeah, that makes sense, but we'll definitely be seeing more of it in April. So there'll be enough information coming out. We'll have a much clearer idea of what, well, I say that, but we all remember 318. We'll have a clear idea of what'll be in live. So I have hope there. And then summer's when they last said Pyro was supposed to become a thing. We've all, at least I hope we've all been paying attention to the Evocati echoes that have been coming out over the last couple of weeks, and the 800 player, yeah, 800, which people like, and then go back to what I was saying earlier about on Thursday when I was doing my react. Somebody was like, "Oh, well, there are already games with 10,000." Not like this,
right?
like,
yeah,
like
it's a very different 8,000, yeah. 10,000 versus 800. But the 800 in a game with no loading screens and fully physicalized objects, and it's you're right. It's not like this.
Not like this. It's the Matrix line. Not like this.
Just not like this.
It's not like this. Sorry. But,
oh, bro, I thought you were chugging a giant bottle of red Coca-Cola, and I was like, man, you hit that. Go for your sugar. Go, you do your thing, buddy.
No, I have a soda problem, but I try to hide it.
Yeah, that's actually, you guys noticed that was clear liquid. That's just vodka. He just puts
it
in a water
bottle
to get into the concert. Yeah.
We took it a step further today. Moonshine. We went full.
See, now Greg is talking about new ways of funding. No, Greg is talking about new ways of funding.
Let's just reach out to
endorsement deals.
Yeah. But welcome in, everybody. No, I think okay, to kind of go back to the ethics real quick. Like, there will be this discussion when it comes up, like when we get to that moment. This discussion is going to come up. I'm 100% sure of that. Now, I think whether that argument has any weight will entirely depend on what CIG do and how they present things. Because you can do things the right way but present them horribly, and you can do things horribly but present them as being amazing. You know what I mean? So yep. Hopefully they continue on this path of being a bit more open and upfront with what's necessary. I still maintain that we don't need to know everything. There's a reason why they're a private company, and they're not open to the public and that kind of scrutiny, but they have been communicating well. I've been really loving the ISCs. Like, the other reality is I do believe a lot of people that work there believe in the project, are happy to be there. And for one, I'm going to say Jared. I always believe he likes what he does, and I think it shows. And I love watching him do his ISCs. He's the perfect combination of nerd and dad jokes.
He's a good face for the company.
He does represent them well, I feel like. and yeah, so I don't know. What are your final thoughts? What's your how could we sum this up? How could we come to
I think, I mean, we can touch on the point that you're making here at the end about the scam and the ethics and what gets delivered. I think that there are always going to be people who call Star Citizen a scam. You're going to have your negative side of the player base. I'm sorry, of the gaming community, not the player base, of the gaming community that will call Star Citizen a scam until the day it releases. After that, they're going to say, "Yeah, but you had to wait 15 years." Like they're never going to be happy, and who cares? They're probably not playing. If they're playing, that why would they have those complaints? So I think for those people, let's do a couple of things. The first would be let's take their opinions with a grain of salt. I was going to say criticisms, but they don't have criticisms; they just have complaints. Let's take that with a grain of salt, and let's also realize they are probably not part of the player base. They are probably part of the gaming community that loves to ridicule projects they don't like. Fine, whatever.
or don't understand.
Sure, either way, whatever the source of that dislike is, maybe it's ignorance, maybe it's they don't like space nerds. Who cares? Whatever. Um, they probably work for a nerd who was smarter than them, and now they're jealous. I don't know. Whatever. Maybe. I think that's one set of maybe vocal minority that doesn't need to get a whole lot of credence, and that's okay. I think that the other side of it is that when you get to something like Star Engine, we've talked about it today. I talked about it in my React video, and I think a lot of people in the media have said we have something tangible to see where this money has gone. We are seeing envelope pushing development. We are seeing brand new technologies. We're seeing a game without a loading screen that is doing very complex rendering, very, very complex calculations, pushing graphics cards to the max. And it will continue even after it's finalized, even after it's optimized, even after it's released. It's going to continue telling NVIDIA and AMD, you got more work to do because our engine's better. I think that that's all going to be playing into this. Anybody who still is talking about, if they've seen this, now, that's the other part of the Star Citizen universe is that the learning curve for players is a hockey stick. The learning curve for people who aren't in this community and don't have dozens daily, Discord pings of saying, hey, this new thing has been talked about by a dev. This new thing has been talked about by a dev. There's a new topic on Spectre. Nobody can keep up with this crap. So that part of the community that isn't yet a player, but might be interested in becoming one, their learning curve is going to be steep. So they may be talking about it from a perspective of just pure, benign ignorance. But if they watch the video and they take it for what it is as a fact, this is an uninterrupted render, and you're going to see all of these different aspects in our engine and what it can do. If you're not impressed by that, or if you're not even at least willing to say, wow, that's good, and I shouldn't criticize it as a scam because I'm seeing the result of the investment, then you're part of that first group. You're now just in the group that says, I want to attack this project no matter what. In which case, your credibility and our willingness to listen to you drops off. So who cares?
So if it's just purely hate for the sake of hate, then of course it should never be listened to, right? But there may be arguments we're not thinking of, and I'm open to hearing everything. But at the same time, like you said, we've been enjoying this for 2 years now.
Yeah.
I mean, the Urkel since 2014 has been around. You first got to test out the hangars, which were taken away and now coming back. And yeah, we all we have a great sense of humor in this community, by the way, because we know our grandchildren will play this, not us. But and this Urkel makes that point, but
the merchant man in the will, yes.
So, but look, I can still see people, going, well, they shouldn't sell it. You guys are investors. Why did you invest? And then, it's the whole conversation we just had. It's a moot point, really, and shouldn't be entertained anymore. Because I think like you said, the Star Engine demo showed enough that, hey guys, no, here's reality for you. Like, this is what actually has been happening. You guys have been living in your little world of, haha, it's so funny, hate, 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 hate. You know, easy to make fun of something rather than instead of trying to understand it or look into it and actually do your homework. And you know, I've said this before. I did a year and a half worth of research, watching content creators like Salty Mike, Space Tomato, all of them, guys who've been in it for ages. And when I felt there was enough there and I felt enough excitement in their voice, I was like, I'm jumping in. And like I said, I shot myself in the foot because I gave myself my own hurdles. And that's why I tell all new players, make sure you're vocal and global. People will listen. This community is truly great. And those have been the redeeming factors for this game. So there's one last thing I want to touch on, though, as we're kind of going through our final thoughts, is I don't feel like, and I know we've had this discussion before, there's enough to progress towards in this game yet. And part of my feel, personally, this is my opinion, or this is a thought I had, I don't necessarily 100% feel this way, is my fear was that they were giving us a bunch of things to do in the game to showcase the engine, to just purely license it, or maybe sell the entire company and just be like, job accomplished, we're all going to retire rich and we're out. Throughout this conversation and my own research and being in the community now for almost 2 years, I don't think that's a justified fear on my part. But I'm not saying I'm completely at ease with how the future is going to go. And I still want to see more things that I can be like, I have a plan now. I'm starting here and I want to get to that so I can be able to do that. Not just, all right, well, I bought the mole, I can go mining. I have the claimer, so me and my buddies can salvage.
Yep.
And that's just making money to buy other ships. So I don't know how you feel about that, but that was kind of where my brain landed when I kept going through this entire conversation, or this idea, the topic, Star Engine, CIG, where are we going? Like, please tell me I didn't just do all that to purely help that guy get a little richer.
I think that this is sort of akin to a conspiracy theory in that we would have to take a look at how many people are in on the conspiracy if it were true. Like, for this to have been truly just a scam, which is basically what your allegation is, or your supposition. You're basically saying, what if this was just a scam for Chris Roberts to line his pockets and walk out with a big chunk of change that's entirely his? Maybe. But if that's the case, over the last 12 years, did he not slip up and tell someone? Like, for this to be what would happen, I think you're talking about far too many people who got scammed by one guy. And it really is one guy. Like, that's part of my consistent criticism up until perhaps recently. I may be changing my tune, but up until recently, this has been the Chris Roberts show. And now we have Rich Tyrer, who's come in as a senior game director, and he is now co-leading this vision, which may help reduce the constant mission creep of this game. Yeah. The constant, we're going in this direction, shiny object.
Yep, squirrel.
Okay, we're gonna go in this squirrel. We're going in this direction. Did you see the pretty butterfly? RSI.
Yeah, like.
I think that. I think if now that this isn't entirely the Chris, obviously he can override Rich however he feels like it. It's still his company, his game. But I think now that we have somebody who is providing some of this co-direction, somebody who can help be a sounding board for Mr. Roberts, somebody who can, rein in the crazy harebrained ideas and say, that's really, really cool, but that doesn't get us to 1.0. And you told me our goal is 1.0. So I'm overriding you, Chris Roberts. We're not doing that today. Thank you very much. I think that dispels that. I don't, and I've said it from day one, Chris Roberts could walk away with the whole company tomorrow and I don't care. I will be sad. I will not be mad. because every single day I agree to the contract that says I may never see this game ever. So fine, I'm honest with them, I'm honest with myself. If he walks away with all of it, I don't see how that's tangibly plausible. Is it possible? Yes. Is it plausible? No. There's so much going on. Why put the video out showing space cows? Why forecast this roadmap to 1.0? Why have all of these things that you could have lied and stolen money a lot earlier, a lot easier? I just don't see, again, possible, yes, plausible, no.
And I think that's where I'm landing more and more. And, I would be disappointed if he literally was like, you know what? Screw everything and everyone. I'm lighting a match and tossing it on all my office buildings and watch the servers go up in flames. Like, nobody gets to play this anymore. And like, I'll bring up the example real quick of the day before when I got pulled, and people are like, well, how do we bring back the game? Don't bring it back. But to that point is, Star Citizen is so popular that, let's say things start to go south, someone would probably come in and pick it up because there's still money to be made there. There's enough interest and enough money generated, that yearly or per quarter, that it's a sound investment for somebody to come in and be like, we don't have to do much, maybe just tighten the reins a little bit and pump out some more stuff, but this can make money for foreseeable future because the platform. And this is, for me, the key argument against, yeah, but he just did this to build and sell. No. He did this because what he's done is build a platform that can go on for at least a decade.
All right, but I'll take this one step further. Let's say the people who make this allegation of he just did this to build it and sell it. Okay, did you think you were buying Chris Roberts or were you buying a game? I'm confused. Because now it sounds like you're sad that you're losing Chris Roberts.
Yeah, no, I get that.
So maybe that's where their confusion comes in, is they think they're buying the Chris Roberts game, that you can play at home, whereas most of us, I think, are in this arena of I bought a game called Star Citizen, and if Star Citizen gets sold, why would I care as long as it's still Star Citizen?
Exactly. And I think there's
I couldn't give two shits about Chris Roberts personally. Like, I don't know the guy. Like, if he vanished tomorrow, but the game got picked up by whoever and they kept Star Citizen going, cool. I play Star Citizen. I don't play Chris Roberts.
Exactly. So I think that would be fine. But the other reality, I mean, would there be a little bit of disappointment if, a EA or somebody were to pick it up? Yes, absolutely. Because then that's probably a whole other can of worms that we're not really willing to get into. But like,
right, like if they change it, then that's on them and that's fine. Yeah. But for me to get sad about hypotheticals, no.
And that's the thing, is like a lot of this is conjecture and hypothetical. It's like, yeah, but what if? Well, so far, and you said it, and other people have said it in chat, I think, and I've seen this more and more, we're all starting to look at what's coming out going, oh shit, this is real.
Yeah.
Even myself had doubts on certain things like that. I'll never, what, they're talking about it? You're kidding. Like, wait, we got to see an image of that? No way. Like, there's a lot of really cool things happening right now. I'm going to be honest. I had a ton of doubts after CitizenCon. I'm like, that such a huge,
really?
Yeah, I'm like, this is too good to be true. When will we actually see this stuff? Like, no, not in like they're totally lying. No. Like, I wanted to see it so bad that please don't take that away from me.
You hyped yourself up. You overhyped
exactly.
You. Yeah,
and
that's on you, buddy.
But I think that's a good point that a lot of us do. And, we hopium, copium, all of these things have been mentioned in chat and through us. But, like, it's how we as people deal with hoping things continue, hoping we don't lose something. Like, it's how we give ourselves motivation to stay within whatever it is. Because there have been times, and I think everybody can say this, where it's like, do I really want to play Star Citizen right now? Do I really?
I'm in a different place because I don't ever blame other people for how I feel.
No,
so
no.
if I hyped myself up and I was like, CitizenCon's gonna be the release of Squadron 42, like if that was me, and then they were like, we're working on it with no deadline because I don't want to disappoint you. Chris Roberts didn't tell me Squadron 42 was coming out at CitizenCon, so why did I think that? Oh, that's right, because I wanted to.
Right, and I've said
So
that on stream.
yeah,
And I said in a perfect world, if we all got our dream, and if, in my opinion, if they wanted to have an amazing PR moment, next sitcon at the very end when he comes out on stage to do his last little talk, the last thing he says is, and now refresh the RSI browser, go ahead and download Squadron 42, drops mic, walks off stage to people crying and cheering, and but that is purely, like you said, that is purely me in my brain hoping for something that's probably not going to happen. Let's be honest.
Also, I mean, see, but you build up even a greater level of expectation because you build up this hopium in 2 languages.
Yeah.
So you have extra disappointment. You have American disappointment and you've got French disappointment. And French disappointment is a whole different thing. You know, when Americans get disappointed, we invade something. When the French get disappointed, you make baguettes and have chocolate. Good for you
wine.
guys.
More
Or
wine.
wine. Yes, that's true. You just drink more wine. But that's, I mean, that's, you know, again, I will not be mad at Chris Roberts for not meeting my artificially generated expectations because I try not to make them.
No, but I mean, so behind that, there's a bit more of like, well, if you look at what he said at the CitizenCon last year, and you know, look at what he was hoping for compared to how he was trying to manage expectations. I actually really like that with CR over the last 2 years, how he's not as like, dude, this is gonna happen tomorrow. Wait, shut up. What did you just say? No, like we've seen that in the past. Like, oh, like people in his team probably just freaking out and not sleeping at night because like, what is this guy gonna say next?
Yeah.
Or
it's like when
you know,
a U.S. president goes off script and everybody's wondering, did we just launch something? What the
shit.
hell? Yeah.
Like, did that guy just say push the button? Oh god. No.
Right. Yeah. What did we call the Russians? Oh shit. Yeah.
but you know, okay, yeah, like I'll admit I played a little bit too much into my own hopium and copium. That's fine.
Yeah.
But I think that also echoes a point that a lot of people in this community were here because of that. We're here because we still hope, we still believe, we still, you know, not like because like we're here purely delusional. No, some of us may be, but the point is, you know, we all believe that we'll see that end goal hopefully before our grandchildren inherit from our accounts. But like, I think everything we've seen in the last 6 months, especially the last 6 months, has been feels like it's happening fast. I mean, when you look at the the progression before, but even when you compare it to other developers and other studios, you know, I'm gonna use Valheim as an example because that's a game that blew up when it came out. They were not ready for the level of success they had. They were caught off guard, but they refused to change their way of doing things, have grown very, very slowly as a company and pump out updates so slowly to the point where now it's hurting them and the community's starting to go like, look guys, like we've been waiting for your fire biome. When the hell is it coming out? Like
right.
So like
it's post Microsoft acquisition. Everybody's like, come on, make stuff.
Please. That's why, like, I think one of the reasons why people also were really hopeful with Starfield was Microsoft just bought the Bethesda, and they're like, no, they don't buy bad things. This will be. And it wasn't bad. I know you really got into it. There was a lot of disappointment. There were some good things about it. I will say that.
But I was able to be happy with it because I didn't set unreal expectations that were not supported by evidence. I didn't go out saying, oh my God, Microsoft just bought it, so it's going to be legit. I was like, hey, Microsoft bought this. There's optimism here. Maybe we'll get a better product, but Microsoft also has a track record for releasing garbage. So, you know, there's pros and cons. So whatever game comes out, we'll judge it when it shows up, and then we get to play it and yippee. You know, and no, it was kind of a 7 out of 10 game, and I'm cool with that, and I still had fun while I play it.
I think there was a little bit more hype built up by Todd than was necessary, but then
that's
again,
his job. He's the
exactly.
CEO. What's he going to tell you? We're making a 7 out of 10.
Game, yeah. Actually, if you haven't seen the unscripted, the Honest Conference, with him, absolutely fantastic. I'll send you the link.
I don't think so.
it's some guy has fun scripting the AI to change some of the things that they say. It's very fun. It's good times. I'll send it to you. You'll love it.
Okay.
Okay, but to get back onto this, I wanted to play into the Hopium Copium because yeah, I think as a community we have a lot of that, and it's something that's held against us at times. But I think it's just normal that when you like something and you enjoy doing it, that you have a certain amount of like, no, this is gonna work. And I think some people are too quick to throw on the Hopium Copium label. Um, onto certain things. We're just like, no, this is genuine. Me telling people right now, no, the game's going in a very good direction. We're going to be seeing a lot of cool stuff is not hopium or copium. That's purely based off of what we've been seeing, what's being released, what's being talked about, the release dates that are being set forth for them, or the release windows, let's call them, because we're not getting specific dates, which I'm
Windows, yep.
fine with. I'm totally fine with that, by the way, because I think that manages our expectations much better than we're gonna do it this date. Okay, no, we need to add 2, 3, maybe 4 weeks to that. Sorry, guys. And that's typically how Star Citizen's development has been in the past,
Yeah.
right? Um, I think the sale, to kind of answer my own question finally, would this be ethical, is it would need a little bit more clarity on that situation, on how it came to be, whether it's truly something completely backed by the pledges, or whether was there truly really investments, and are they going to make the difference between that. In the end, I don't think it bothers me. I don't think it should really bother that many people either, because we've said it, he had a vision, he's creating a platform, he's creating something greater than just a game, and that was always his vision. um, and I'm fine with that. I think it should raise some questions for the future of how things are developed, and maybe make sure, or people in the end, all I'm trying to say with that, I think, is that people should just always be aware of where they're spending their money and what that entails. Like we've said it multiple times. We know he can run away with the bag of cash at any point, and I'm okay with that here, because that's how it was sold to me, is a project, not a product, done finished product. This is a
Great one.
project.
That is a great one. Product versus project. I like that.
Exactly. So, like you said, the expectations were set. The rules of the game are known at this point. Now, when you come in immediately, people don't necessarily know this. There has to be a little bit of digging. You got to talk to some people, kind of figure out how these things came to be. But the reality is, will there be a license, sorry, of the engine? Yes, absolutely. I think it would be a mistake not to. And I think I'm going to go back to my previous point of, let's keep the industry honest. Let's not let people just sit on their laurels. And I think that's why there's so much hype around GTA 6, is because every time Rockstar comes out with something, they push the envelope and show people that, like, no, you guys were behind. And I think, the greatest example is GTA 5 coming out on PS3 looking 10 times better than anything that was on that console to begin with. And then they're like, oh, yeah, but don't worry, we're just dropping on PS4. It looks even better now.
Yeah.
It's so, it's stuff like that. And I think, yeah, you nailed me on that correctly. The hopium copium, we have to remember that it's something that we do to ourselves most of the time. We might be influenced by other people on it because of their hopium copium, but we also have to remember that this is a business. They have lawyers in place who have probably overseen and gone through all of this stuff, who have probably ironclad deals in place with, or have looked at all the potential issues of potentially in a class action lawsuit for any reason. And I don't think there would be grounds for it, even if they were to lock the door and run away with the bank. So I think in the end, selling or licensing the engine would be fine. I think I want to see that if it does become a thing, because I am so tired of seeing what Unity is doing. I'm so tired of seeing people just kind of resting on these old engines. Or the Arma Reforger example is kind of interesting, because that game purely is one for them just to test their new engine. It's a sandbox for that. And I think they weren't 100% honest about that at the very beginning, and then it kind of became too obvious, and so they're like, yep, this is what we're doing. And people have since then kind of accepted it. And I've heard more people now playing that than at the beginning.
I mean, you brought up a really good point about would we want to see Star Engine get licensed? And I think that the before you close out the show, I think the one point that we haven't touched on, but is a very simple thing to state, is if he licenses Star Engine, that doesn't mean it leaves Star Citizen. Star Citizen continues with Star Engine. He could license it all day. It just means other games will now be in development for the next 5 to 10 years utilizing this new platform. Doesn't do anything to Star Citizen or to Squadron 42. It stays there. So if they license it, it means more money for development. It means a really nice proof of concept for Chris Roberts and his team and what they've done and what they wanted to set out to make. And great. So that's a positive. And it perhaps, hopefully, it would expand the capability of future games. And really it has to be, almost has to be, space game oriented. So could the licensing of Star Engine push forward all of gaming in space, all of sci-fi gaming, because of its incredible 64-bit coordinate system and the particle rendering? That's a space thing. Like, Cyberpunk doesn't need a city that's 52 light years long. You know what I mean? So if he licenses it, great. License it. Go make more money. Go make more games. Go make more Star Citizen content. Go, whatever. I don't see a downside to licensing Star Citizen.
Star
really at all. Or Star Engine. I don't see a downside to licensing the engine, because as far as I can tell, it would just bring a bunch of positives both to Star Citizen and to CIG, but similarly to the wider gaming world. Great. Go use a better engine. You have one now.
Yeah. I'm an optimist. And I hope that's how it plays out, because I'm gonna just to shit on Unity a little bit. Excuse me. When they had their whole debacle come out and people just entirely lost faith, you saw some game developers go, we're gonna try something different.
Oh, you mean the pricing thing? The tier?
Oh, the whole pricing, the tier, the pay per download. Yep. And then there's people like me being like, well, I don't like this developer, let me re-download this and uninstall it 20 times. Just to really stick it to them.
Petty or anything?
No, never. I've never been called that at all. I don't know what you're talking about. But
sorry, Le Petit.
Le Petit.
Le Petit.
Le Petit Le Pew. There you go. But no, in all fairness to Unity, they suck. They really fucked up. They pissed off a lot of people, and my favorite example is Road to Vostok, which is it's a one guy making a game that's like a single player Tarkov experience, and you're going through like the borders of Finland and Russia, and it's like post-apocalyptic basically a little bit. And that guy is one of my favorite devs to go and follow, because he's working by himself. He's super open with his community, and he does videos explaining what he's doing, why he's doing it, and how long he thinks it'll take him. And what he did was he came out with a video after the Unity thing, and he was like, look guys, I've been working with Unity for like 15 years. I teach Unity to schools, to students, so they can learn how to work with this engine. He's like, that's what I'm most comfortable with. That's what I know the best and I'm good at. He's like, but here's the thing, is what they're talking about is a real problem. Anyways, glossing over that, he's like, my end decision is I'm going to go and do something no one's done before, and I'm going to try to create this first-person, high-definition game in an open-source engine called Godot. And so he's actually galvanized that community to be like, you're doing what? Holy crap, I hope it works for you. Because if you manage to do that, if you manage to prove it, you can make a game that's on par with these top dogs on an open source engine that you didn't have to pay to license. Well, that opens the doors for a lot of developers to come in and make a lot of new stuff. Hopefully, right? So as long as, and to drive home my point, as long as everything is done with the goal of hopefully creating more and not just cashing out, or creating something great that no one will ever be able to take advantage of, like the Fox engine from who's the Fox engine? Who did Metal Gear Solid? Crap, Konami?
Yeah.
Konami.
So, yeah.
So that engine was developed for Metal Gear Solid 5, one of the most amazing engines when it came out, and they sat on it, and they use it for pachinko machines.
Yeah, Konami.
So I mean, that's a very, very different example, but I hope we don't see something like that where there's something clearly a great piece of tech that, well, we don't get to take advantage of. No one gets to play with because those people are asshats.
I think, and like I said, we can talk about this forever, but I think that for Chris Roberts, this is a guy who, in my opinion, from what I've seen, the little exposure that I have, he seems to think long term. This is a guy who's got visions, he doesn't have ideas. And I think that what we're looking at is somebody who knows potentially that there is a leverageable product here. If he sits on it, it seems short sighted.
Hmm.
Like if it's just like that's my engine. It's like okay, you like how many games do you plan on releasing with this? A sequel, a sequel, a sequel. So what? Like I see him using this as a revenue generator. I see him using this. Also, it opens it up to new opportunities. It opens it up to more collaborations with other studios. It opens it up to more content ideas. It opens it up to modders. It opens it up to a million, I think. Um, it opens it up to a lot of new sandboxes for him to play in and for his team. I seem to get the impression that this is a guy who cares about the people that work for him and especially other visionaries that may be working under him leading part of these teams or leading, the individual offices. I got to imagine he's going to look at them too and be like, cool, what could we do with this? I've wanted to license it from day one, but what would you like to do if we license it? I could see this being a very collaborative thing. So again, I'm sort of projecting and I'm making some assumptions with optimism, but I don't see a downside to licensing Star Engine. And I see a whole lot of upside for the player base, for the game studio, and for Chris Roberts personally. I see this being a big win if he decides to license it in the very near future.
All right. Yeah, I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. This was fun. Thank you.
Yeah, it's always fun.
This was fun. I hope you guys all enjoy that, viewers, chatters. I think that kind of sums it up. I don't really have much more to add other than, soon, please.
I appreciate all of the ads that we got, all of the additions and comments and stuff from everybody in chat. Thank you for sharing your opinions, your ideas, your visions, your lack of regret. For some of you who said, I don't care how much I spend, I'm enjoying this and I'm good. But for whatever your opinions were, thank you for sharing them in chat. It always makes these shows a little bit better.
Yeah, again, thank you everybody for the follows. Thank you for the patience. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for joining in the conversation. Uricola, it was really interesting to hear your point of view on certain things. Devil, you as well. Always nice to be able to look over to chat and see things to go off of and just interesting points too. And I always love asking people how long they've been in Star Citizen because, I think that kind of dictates where they're at and how they're feeling about the game. Typically, the people who have been here longer are a little saltier.
Harsh.
No, it's not. But then you have people like Urkel who are very supportive, who are all in, and who don't seem to be bothered by what a lot of people are getting hung up on. So no, I think again, thank you everybody in chat. Thank you Arcane Danger for the follow. Thank you Mustache Mike for the follow. Great name. Thank you Hybrid Avenger. Thank you Urkel for the follow. I really appreciate that, everybody. Thank you to my guest Papa Juggernaut for taking the time to join me here and listen to me whine and bitch and be full of hopium and copium. I always enjoy having these discussions with him, so hopefully we get to do much more of these again in the future too.
Absolutely. I really appreciate you bringing me on here. It's fun to chat with you. So 07s to you. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, 07s to everybody. Thank you so much. I'm gonna figure out who we're gonna raid real quick. Let me throw up an ending card as Jug and I talk crap for a second.
Who's live?